Can you hear me? Okay. Thank you very much for these kind introductions. I'm very pleased to be here in these very sad circumstances. I would like to start by a few words about the events which have taken, and I just heard are still taking place in Paris. Terrorists have killed randomly large numbers of people in coffee places and restaurants where one comes to discuss and to share ideas in a convivial atmosphere, and in a concert hall where one comes to enjoy collectively music and art. Many of the victims were young students and teachers living in one of the most culturally and ethnically diverse areas in Paris. With this cold mass murder, the terrorists have attacked the essential values of our civilization. What they are trying to destroy by these barbaric actions is light, in the metaphoric sense that we give to this word in French when we talk about les lumières, literally the lights, a word which relates to the Enlightenment, the philosophical school of the 18th century, which describes the aspiration of humanity to knowledge, to the free exchange of ideas and the values of freedom, especially the freedom of thought, which is essential to all forms of culture, of art, and of science. Coincidentally, scientists all over the world have put light at the center of the stage in the year 2015, which has been declared the International Year of Light by the United Nations and the UNESCO, in order to celebrate the anniversaries of fundamental discoveries about light and light technologies. The inauguration of the event took place in Paris, appropriately called the City of Light, last January, only a couple of days after a first massacre has been carried on in its street, and we started in January the International Year of Light by a minute of silence like we did today. So this year, which was intended to be festive and full of optimism about what light can bring to civilization, has started and ended by awful and senseless mass killings perpetrated by people who hate light and try to establish an age of darkness. In the context of the International Year of Light, I had initially intended to talk to you only about the laser, which, as we will see, is an extraordinary source of light, which was invented a little bit over 50 years ago, hence the title I gave to my talk. And I wanted to tell you about the revolutions that lasers had brought about in fundamental physics and in innovation and technologies. After the Paris events, I feel that it is more appropriate to broaden the scope of this lecture and to talk to you more generally about light and about how the question raised about its nature have shaped our understanding of the world and the universe. Since the Renaissance, these questions have been addressed with a scientific approach based on curiosity, imagination, and creativity, three essential values of our civilization, which are at the opposite of the sick ideology of the barbarians who attack us today. So speaking about light, I will speak about fundamental values, about fundamental research, the enrichment it brings to our minds, and its connection with innovations which increase our means of communicating, measuring things, and probing the universe. The laser and the revolution it has made possible in science and technology will, of course, be present in this talk, even though the discussion will cover a broader view about light, seen as a symbol of blue sky, curiosity-driven research. So I have slightly changed the title of my talk, which will be Light and Our Vision of the World. The first thing I want to say is that fundamental questions about light, which were primarily motivated by man's curiosity and aspiration to knowledge, have shaped our vision of the world and about nature, and since starting from the 16th or 17th century. And the second idea is that the history of light provides a good illustration of the multiple connections between blue sky research which is driven by the aspiration to knowledge without any application in mind, and technological innovation, which very often come in a fortuitous way, serendipitously, after the fundamental